Hello, strangers and friends. This is Icarus over at the Strangers Guild, welcoming you all to the very first episode of our campaign, The Tales of D'aowVern. Now, this is a live-streamed campaign, so if you want to watch any and all future sessions, make sure you check out our Twitch. Details should be in descriptions just about everywhere. I did want to give all of you a heads up that there were some minor audio technical issues at the very beginning of this episode. It does not sound like this the entire time, so please just bear with us a little bit as these first couple episodes have technical issues and we're still figuring stuff out. We really love and appreciate all of the support and sincerely hope that you enjoyed this very first episode of The Tales of D'aowVern.
What now lies in wait to be discovered in the tales of D'aowVern?
Now we are good. Yes, I got confirmation that we have fixed the problem. So sorry about that, but we are going to do quick introductions again, and then I'll go into the spiel. So starting with Icarus.
Hello again. Name is Icarus, pronouns are she, they. Welcome if you're joining my stream or Caleb's. We are both streaming at the same time, hoping that it's going to look good on one end. So I am playing Dianthus. He is the hopeful cleric of the group, but yes, just because he can heal does not mean he is going to every single time. He's going to be fun and interesting, and I cannot wait for you guys to meet this freak.
Hello again, I'm Freckle. My pronouns are she, they. I'm Freckled Aquarius on TikTok and Instagram, and I'm playing Yarrow, the group's sorcerer. And I have never played a sorcerer before, but I'm really excited to give it a go.
Hi, howdy, my name's Sabrina, and I will be playing Nortia Thornwood, the wonderful wizard of the group. And you can check me out on TikTok as BBEG Brina.
My name is Betty. I am Who the Lovely on TikTok and Instagram. I'm a bookish and fantasy content creator, and I'm going to be playing Lady M, who is the bard of our group, who may or may not have more up her sleeve than a song and dance.
Oh, cool. This was our introduction for these amazing characters. There are more people on this project, but they will be coming and going in future sessions. But for now, welcome. My name is Caleb. I'm the DM. I will be playing all the other characters, I suppose. And yeah, I'm super excited. These characters have been in the works for almost months now. So yeah, there's a lot of thought that's gone into this. We're really excited to share this story with you. And before we get started, I'm going to plug everyone's socials up here. So if you missed anything that they said, you can go back and check them out on their social media stuff. That being said, welcome, strangers and friends, to the beginning of the Strangers Guild in the Tales of D'aowVern. This world is going to be a little bit different than any returning player might think of, mostly just because I've given these characters a lot of freedom as far as their character creation, but also I've taken the magic away from them going into this. These characters have been put into a setting where for the past 100 years or so, the clerical, sorcerer, bardic abilities of all these characters has been unattainable. And so we will be starting at level 1, but with a bit of a twist, and I hope that you guys enjoy the twist that I have given each of these lovely creators here. To get started, though, I do want to say that this is a adult campaign, but it is Fade to Black, so there are going to be some emotional beats, some moments of, heartbreak and trials, tribulations, all that stuff. But we are also very progressive in our approach to the game. It's very open. This is actually, looking at it the first time, I've been the only white guy in a group. So it's definitely much not your great uncle's D&D. but I'm totally excited to get going as far as that goes. I have a collection of all of the yellow and red flags of the characters, but as they come up, we will navigate those. I think it's time to play, to have some fun, and I'm going to have two of you make wisdom saving throws.
So sorry.
Jumping right into it, huh?
So sorry.
Mhm.
What?
Excuse me?
So, Nortia and Dianthus,
Ugh.
if I could have the two of you give me a wisdom saving throw.
How dare you? I have advantage on wisdom saving throws, so
You do. And for the purposes of this ask specifically, Dianthus has disadvantage.
I rolled a natural
Oh,
20, so I'm mad. I'm really mad.
I got a 3 and a nat 20.
I got
Yes!
an 11.
So, Dianthus, if you could write down 2, I'm going to tell you what the 2 is, but if you could write down 2, and when we get to your scene, I will let you know what that is. But first, I'm going to make a little note of a nat 20 off the rip.
I
That was
must
very
say,
nice.
I've been rolling these dice all morning, and I've only been getting 7s and 13s, and this feels really good.
Got all the bad luck out of the way. Okay,
Yes.
cool. To get started, I have told each of these characters that they are each going to be getting their own scene. But yeah, it might feel a little railroady at first, but it's definitely meant to put them on the track, and then they're going to go off and make some crazy stuff happen. That being said, Nortia, you begin very aware that you're asleep. You know that there's a big event happening tomorrow, but this moment is very clearly and vividly a dream. You've been here before. There's dark sand, there's a surf coming in, the sky is pitch black, but only for a moment. Because as you look up into the sky, there is a single light that turns into 2 lights, that turns into 4 lights, that explodes into unimaginable color. The sky has more stars and more color and just more life than you've ever seen on the beaches of your home in D'aowVern. And this is a place that you, as a dream walker, as someone who's spent a lot of time in this realm, it's very familiar to you. On a nat 20, however, you see in the distance something new. If you could give me a nature check.
Nature. Okay. 11 plus 4, 15.
For the first time, you lose your faculty in the dream realm, and you are placed on the deck of a ship. You look around, and there's hundreds of people scurrying around. There's a half-elf at the helm. He has a big lit-up tattoo on his chest, what seems to be wings, but not made of feather, of astral projection, as you see that this half-elf is manning this ship and pushing it along the seas of this dark ocean but bright sky. Behind him, there's a rogue that is dual-wielding rapiers, mowing down these dark, shadowy figures. On the other side, there is an Asimar, a very lovely woman, very tan skin, blonde hair, piercing purple eyes. And as she's fighting off these figures, her wings are batting off these, not quite demons, not quite infernals, but almost like shadows. As the light that this crew throws out onto the ship, these figures hide and they cower. And for the first time for this dream, you're able to move. You've seen this ship before. You know what it represents. But looking around you, how would you like to explore the ship? Or would you like to talk to someone? Or would you like to look around? What is your thought process?
So, Nordia's natural instinct is to is to reach for pen and paper, but I assume she does not have pen and paper in a world of dreams. um,
You say that, and as Nortia is thinking this, you see the table behind the person steering the ship. There is a notebook that is clasped. As you reach for this notebook, a feather from the wings of the Aasimar fighting behind you pierce almost like a blade, but not in a damaging way, with a form of celestial energy, pierces into the book. And for the first time, you're able to pick up the notebook.
Nortia picks up the notebook and starts looking around her for something that seems important, or something that she can help with, while also like writing down everything that's going on.
So as you pick up the book, as you're looking around, there is a large barbarian-looking individual. Very He-Man looking, chiseled, but you notice that on his face, he's actually wearing glasses. He gives very much like a dapper barbarian, like raised in the woods, but like very smart, very intuitive man. And as he is dual wielding, he has these halberds in his hand. He's just wailing. He looks at you, which isn't weird normally, but tonight, for whatever reason, this barbarian sees you there. And to you, that is not normal, because usually you're more of a stranger and a guest to these dreams. But you see a look of recognition from the barbarian. As you look over his shoulder, you see the man heralding the ship has become aware of you, and the Aasimar, whose feather you have now in your possession, is looking at you and openly weeping. What do you do?
Nortia looks around at the people staring at her, and feels drawn to the weeping Aasimar. And she walks up and she places a hand on their shoulder and says, "It will all be all right."
There's a moment of silence that falls on the ship. As your hand touches their shoulder, a radiant burn envelops your arms, not in a painful way, but you see as the ship itself exhales, and these figures that are attacking begin to one by one vanish. And as you promise that it is going to be okay, you look at the roguish figure who now you see their hood has fallen and is a changeling woman. Very beautiful, but you can see that they're distrusting. And as you're holding this weeping Aasimar, this rogue takes them by the hand, says, "I'm sorry," gives them a kiss, and then runs towards the back of the ship. And for the first time, you realize that behind the ship is a celestial dragon. And what I mean by that is the stars and the planets and the systems that you had seen every night when you had this dream were actually the scales of this dragon. Its head is 4, 5, 10 times the size of the ship. And you see, in a moment of hope and of sadness, the ship starts to break and crumble as the dragon tears into it. And just like every time you have this dream, the ship disappears, and you awake in your bed holding a notebook with a quill folded inside of it.
Fucking dope, dude.
That being said, Nortia, what is your morning routine? Or how do you respond to this new dream?
Yes, Nortia looks around and sees the notebook and quill in her hand and feels almost like she's going to shake. Like she doesn't like that she's not able to control what's going on in this situation. And she reminds herself, it's just a dream. It's just a dream. And she gets out of her bed and sets the notebook and quill on her bedside table at the tavern. And she starts to make her bed first thing. And she's looking around and she looks out the window. And part of her is wishing to see the ship, wishing to see that in the real world she could obtain these things and manipulate and do what makes her her, which is use her knowledge for good. But she does not see. So she sighs and gets ready to go on with the rest of her day.
That was beautiful. As you begin to move and get ready with your day, I am going to transition to Dianthus.
I knew it was coming. I knew that it was.
You knew it was coming. Yeah, you knew it. The roll, you said you had an 11.
Yes. And you told me to write down 2.
So I am going to, in a little bit different context than Nortia has seen, you're going to be able to roll twice. That can be insight checks, perception. You can try to nab something. But this scene is going to be similar to Nortia's. It's going to be a dream, but it's also going to be a memory. And that will become kind of apparent as we go. But just keep in mind that because of your role, you only get 2 interactions with the scene that you can use as you will. Dianthus. We start in pitch black, similar but different than before. This blackness doesn't have the softness of when you close your eyes and you know that when you open them, light will return. This blackness is all that Dianthus remembers. You have this dream constantly.
Yeah.
Which is kind of an oxymoron because this dream is mostly just you being enveloped and choked by this darkness. However, if we zoom out from Dianthus in this moment, you will see the surface of the moon Obus. Everything is black with diamonds and emeralds and all forms of very rich material. But whereas planets have plants, the moon, or one of the moons of your world, is covered in obsidian, scale, and rock, and death. We see 2 figures walking on the surface. One is a woman in a red dress that falls off of both shoulders. She is very put together, but it's almost as if her lips are painted with blood and her eyes swallow the light, although minimal, that reflects off the surface of this moon. She walks along the path of this moon with a stubbornness and a power and a disregard that is opposed by the other figure. You see that she breaks everything she touches. It's very much stilettos on crystal, very destructive as she goes along the course of the moon. The other character, as they walk, you see that they have ivory skin, pitch black eyes, but unlike the woman, this person has a peace and a homeliness to them. The difference, though, is that surrounded by all this extravagance, as they move, ribbons of what you can assume to be metal reach out and wrap their wrists and ankles. And pretty much every step that they take along the surface of this moon, a ribbon unfurls itself and is met by another. You get the idea that this individual is chained to the surface of this place. And usually this wouldn't involve you, but as the 2 are walking you see that this woman in red looks down at the dirt and sees a very clean kept plot. In any other circumstance, it would look like a grave, maybe. But in this place, it's so plain and so out of place that it draws your focus. Everything else is emeralds and diamonds and rubies and all sorts of fancy metals and stones, but this one plot of land, almost with a disregard of where it is kept pristine. And you get the idea that the character that is bound was keeping this a secret, and their secret has just been discovered. As the woman in red gets down on her hands and starts to pick up the dirt, the topsoil here, you think it's an inspection. You think that she's looking at it with a sense of duty and critique, but just as you see her regalness fade, she extends these long, gnarly claws, and her jaw unhinges, and she starts to eat and devour the earth. And as this happens, Dianthus, for the first time, you feel your hands able to move as this woman is pulling into the dirt that is the topsoil of your grave. How do you respond?
I would like to just reach out and grasp whatever I can to try and pull myself out.
So as Dianthus reaches out, this won't count for the 2 rolls, but can you roll a d4 for me?
3.
So as you reach out, your fingers get a bunch of her hair, like right behind her ear, and with a force that, you've been here a very long time, with a force that even if you weren't weak from millennia in this place, she pulls you out, and in a moment you think that she's going to bite into your chest. She very gently kisses Dianthus's pectoral. And in that place, a mark starts to grow with a necrotic energy.
I see what you're doing.
And
I see.
And as this happens, for the first time, the man in chains reaches out to hold your hand. And as this happens, your body erupts from the grave. The woman in red at this point is so off because this has never happened to her. And you are standing on this planet, on this moon, with 2 individuals you don't really know. What do you do?
Do I feel alive? Am I breathing? Do I have a heartbeat?
Yes, and no. You feel alive. Dianthus is breathing, but your heart does not beat.
He's going to take a moment to just take in the environment around him. See if it's at all familiar. And then look to these 2 individuals. Realize he does not know their name, and he does not know his. And he has not let go of that hand that reached out and grasped his. And he will just ask, surprisingly calmly, where am I?
Which one are you asking?
Both. Whoever will answer him.
I'm going to have you choose a role, and I'm going to have you burn one of the 2. You can choose if you're trying to be persuasive or intimidate or insightful, but once you choose, roll and tell me what you get.
He's going to try and be persuasive, I think. I forgot I gave this boy no charisma. A 13.
So I rolled opposed checks.
Great.
The ivory-toned man that is holding your hand at this moment looks into your eyes, and let me be clear. You've been in the ground for an uncalculatable amount
Right.
of time. And so in this moment, everything is coming back to you,
Right.
but also your eyes are adjusting. But what the easiest thing to see in this moment is these black eyes that to a typical mortal might look scary, but as one that is coming out of death, it is safe. And you get the idea that this person, whatever their name is, has something to do with dying. They may even be death. And in this moment, the lady in red is readjusting her jaw back into place, withdrawing her claws. But this ivory-toned man looks to you, and with ichor tears streaming from his face, he says, "You are my flower, my Dianthus." And the ribbons start to envelop him, completely swallowed by the moon. He is pulled into the soil that you had just crawled out of, and you see behind you is what wasn't there before, but almost as if the moon itself is presenting you with an escape. There is a cot with a set of clothes and a bag of material. And in this moment, that is probably the only form of solace that you have with everything going on here. This man has just been devoured. You don't really know what that means. But on you said it was a 13 persuasion? You see that this woman's eyes have no pity. If anything, she is carnal in her desire to consume you in this moment. So what do you do?
I think it is very hard, and this is true to this day, to scare them. Dianthus has seen a lot, deals with death constantly. To scare Dianthus is a great feat, and I think she is the first one to do that to him. That look in her eye, it is something very primal and very alive, this fear. So he, I think, is going to try and just back away from her, get the things from the cot that has appeared. And although she scares him, right now she is his only source for any kind of answer. Who are you?
As you ask this, the ribbons that were pulling the figure earlier are actually dressing you up. It's almost as if responding in this way, there is a natural assistance, almost as if you've seen scenes where you're being armor donned by another person. The planet, the moon, the metal bands themselves are putting on your boots and armoring you up, almost as if to give you some sort of shot. As this happens, this woman, with an unnatural and to others probably scary, her head falls to about a 270-degree turn. She says, "I am Bianca. I am the one who stopped you. And now, you foolish flower, I'm going to finish it."
Do I have a weapon?
You do.
Okay.
You do have a weapon. As you are thinking this, the voice of the man in ivory is in the back of your head, and not quite in words, and not in any language that you understand, but you are being directed to stick your arm back in the soil.
I will do so.
What do
I
you
will
do?
do so. No hesitation.
You do so. So as you do so, a blade comes out, and the scabbard is forming. As you pull this blade out of the ground, the soil comes up, and what would normally cake you in dirt with almost as if you've seen like liquid mercury before, it falls to your hip, and the scabbard is made out of silver and very elegant, very beautiful, and you have in your hand a blade.
I will look to this woman, and if there is no clear sign of escape, the only way out is kind of through her, then he is going to plant his feet firmly and tell her, then come and get me.
So I will tell you, Dianthus, in this moment, you have two choices. You could use one of your rolls to attack or approach this woman, or you can use some sort of investigative, perceptive, outside of combat-esque check. It will have long-term impact, but yeah. So you're going to use this roll to either attack or to leave. I have things prepared either way. So what do you think Dianthus would do?
He is not a very impulsive person. He is very patient. Does she seem extraordinarily aggressive that if I attempt to escape her, she is going to pursue?
You see this woman, and her almost as if driven by fate or destiny, there is nothing else to this woman's core besides consuming you in this moment. She was sent here to pursue and to take you out. So
he ain't a coward.
Fight or
he
flight.
Ain't a coward. He's a fight. It's gonna be fight.
All right. So what's your armor class?
Let me put the armor on really fast, actually. Haven't done that yet. Probably should. That's a 15 armor class at the moment.
I'm gonna get you, by all means. She disconnects her shoulders and with a bestial, almost bird-like intensity rushes you with arms that at this point are not muscular but almost behind her. And she slashes out at you, and across your eyes you feel this burning necrotic explosion, but the attack does not damage you necessarily. It just missed your armor class, but your pristine bluish tone, almost gray, if I remember correctly, the yes. Tone of your face is scarred by the marks that Bianca has left. That being said, that was her attack. What do you do?
So I did roll an attack prior to that.
Okay.
How does an 18 sound for you there?
I will say for this moment, because it's not quite a normal combat, how do you attack this person?
He is going to go for anywhere that seems like it will be a very fatal, quick blow. So he might aim either for, well, actually, if her arm had just come up, her side area, her torso, her abdomen, that would have been open as she had lifted her arm up to slash at my face.
With an 18, I will say, as your blade hits her skin, you realize this is a very powerful creature, and Dianthus has only been awake for moments. So there's a little bit of a tug to the muscles in your arm. Your bicep feels like it's gonna tear. Your shoulder is gonna pop out of its socket. Even your back is straining. But as you catch this woman right below her ribs, the blade goes up, her arm falls off, and her chest splits, and her head falls into the soil, and her legs fall to the ground. But Dianthus knows death. This woman's not dead, and if anything, you've done some damage, but you've pissed her off. So now what?
I mean, if she is in pieces, he might now look for an escape of some kind.
Your rolls are complete. Mm-hmm. In this moment, as this woman falls to the ground, whereas before the man was consumed by obus. The soil seemed to bring him in. This woman seems to be protected, almost as if like her body is hydrophobic to the surface of the planet. So she's being put back together in an almost gelatinous form. You see the face of the man who saved you in this moment. It bursts out of the soil to say nothing. You can see the words trying to escape his lips, but as he does, a piece of obsidian comes out of his mouth, and in its core, almost like a heart, you see a glowing amethyst. If words could have power, this is the moment, because as he speaks and no sound comes out, the amulet hits you in the chest and you are thrown to your back, and you look up to see a perfect blue circle. And just out of earshot, almost as if you're hearing a voice from 2 rooms over, you hear the ocean. You hear a tide. And in this moment, you have to decide whether you are going to run away into the planet, if you are going to reach or jump for the blue that is above you, that is almost on a ceiling, if there was a ceiling, or if you want to reapproach the woman that you attacked.
This woman's not going to leave him alone. I think he understands that. That is something that is very, very clear, been made very obvious, but he also has an understanding that he's probably not ready yet to face this kind of threat. So reapproaching her is out of the question. If there's 2 escape options here, probably towards the blue.
As you, Dianthus, try to stand up, you feel the pull, the gravity of the place that you are shift. In reaching forward, it's as if for a moment you're lying on your back, but as you reach forward, it's as if you are being propped up and stepping off of a building. And Dianthus, you begin to fall. And as you do, the night sky is behind you, and the stars, for the first time since you've woken up, start to come into focus. And you fall for what feels like hours. And you think you're going to hit the water because that's all you see. It's just endless water. But as you come closer, there's a single plot of land. And having no aerodynamic experience, Dianthus is flailing around, reaching for something. But with the precision and the luck of someone who has been sent to this place by a god, I suppose, Dianthus makes impact with the ground at the base of this mountain. You're immediately unconscious. That would kill someone who had a heartbeat. You are at the base of this mountain in a small village with a single church, very simple, white-framed building, can maybe house 50 people. And this young girl, probably about 8 years old, beautiful red curly hair, piercing green eyes, comes out and starts to pull you by your feet, because she's not very strong, but starts to pull you into the church. And that was 100 years ago. Transitioning now to current day. So that's going to be fun.
Good lord.
Yarrow, if you could, for me, you could explain your character, and then I'll, like the others, say what we're doing.
Okay. Yeah, so he is a tiefling, the sorcerer. He's purple, white hair, mostly focuses with like, he's very interested in like the rediscovery of magic and time. He's got a lot of books and clocks and stuff, and has been spending like past couple of years really into researching a bunch of different stuff, and for the past month probably hasn't really left his house very much, because they've been very like dedicated to that stuff. So
Yarrow, in this moment, we, explaining the scene around you, we zoom out a little bit to see the east side of town. If you look to the west, you see the church, you see the houses, you see the conglomeration of castles and shops and docks and all sorts of things that make up daow'vern. You, probably one of the only more notable people of the city that have deliberately kind of secluded yourself. You see behind you is what everyone calls the Moon Tower for pretty obvious reasons. The base is very small, almost as if you could wrap your arms around it. Yarrow, if you're a little bit taller, you probably could, because it's a very small base. But as the tower reaches for the sky, it's almost like a drop, a meteorite, a piece of stone that landed there and never moved. People who come to the Moon Tower, you have to step up into it a little bit to get to the door. There's a couple pieces of stone that you've weathered away to make natural steps into the building. But yeah, your very cluttered observatory, so to say, houses pretty much all of your obsessions. But also, many people have obsessions. A lot of people have hobbies. One of the nicknames you've picked up from people in town is based off of the fact that your obsessions dwarf anyone else's. You have boards with strings that, if this were a warehouse, would cover the entire floor. Like, it is impossible to navigate this room without you as a navigator. That being said, what do you think Yarrow is doing in this moment with all the things that you have going on in the back of your mind?
I think he's definitely been very stressed and trying to just make some sort of connection between something, anything, anywhere that could help him. And he's probably been pacing, looking over his notes, looking over, adding more threads throughout his room and his study to try and find connections to remind himself of this and that. So it's a very kind of like scattered, frantic sort of way of discovering stuff and researching things.
Cool. So in this moment, I'm going to give you a choice. Could you give me either an investigation, a medicine, or a nature check?
I'll do investigation. That is a 13.
13. Okay. So Yarrow, in the back of your mind, you think you're forgetting something important. Today is something big, and you're definitely forgetting what it is. And like a lot of people with ADHD, the fact that you know that you forgot it doesn't help at all, because as you're going through like moving books and trying to deal with your little minor obsessions of the moment, with a 13, you are making progress. You are putting timetables together of the different events of the past 100 years or so. You, amongst with a select group of other people, are in charge of mandating and just keeping track of all the celestial and natural events of the island. That being said, there's something that you're forgetting. I don't know what it could be. That being said, though, you do find a piece of paper that has a diagram you've never seen of tiefling anatomy. And this is more in depth because you have so many books and papers and boxes, and so you're always figuring out something new. It's been a couple weeks since your last breakthrough, but this specific piece of paper has explanations on tiefling blood work that you think could be helpful. With 13, you don't really know how it's helpful, but it could be helpful.
They'll definitely go to pick that up immediately and just carefully look it over and see if there's anything else he can connect it to, or just definitely keep that in his hand. Like, it's something new, that's something important.
Gotcha. So at this moment, it's almost as if when you have a word in the back of your mind and you know where it is, but you can't pin it down. It's like it's in a place, and I see what I'm trying to say. It's right there. That's Yarrow right now. It's like Everything is so frustrating to you in this moment because you're so close. You are 98% there. But for the first time in probably about a month, you realize that you need to get out because you have expended all of your understanding and your knowledge of what you're trying to do right now. And at this moment, you could go try to find books. You can go try to find consult with someone, or maybe just get more supplies. But for whatever that means, you need to get out of here. As you are coming to that realization, there's a knock on the front door of your tower, which we can illustrate for everyone else what the moon tower looks like later. But for now, just know that you have to get down there, and it's kind of far because the tower is pretty big. But you hear someone knocking.
I think he goes to the nearest window and just yells at, 1 second! And then starts his trek down the stairs and through all of the threads in his little, basically like a maze.
Can you give me a dexterity save?
Yeah. With a 11?
11. So at first you're okay. You know where all the strings are, all the boxes are. And as you get down the stairs, you're, careful, delicate, but right before the door, there's a bag, like a drawstring bag of material that you were going to look at later. You were going to organize it, you were going to put it up, but just in time to trip into the doorway, the string catches your foot, and as the door opens, you fall into the very muscular arms of a very tall half-orc, half-elven woman. The woman is named Gon-Kui. Question: how often do you think Yarrow goes to the bar?
Probably not too frequently. He's definitely been, but I think he does spend most of his time like in his little tower. But I'd say a few times probably.
Gotcha. That being said, could you roll a perception check for me?
It is a 15.
15. Okay. So with that roll, you recognize Gon-Kui. Very soft eyes, but a very strong jawline. The lower canines come over the top lip. But this woman is in charge of the Tipsy scale, the bar downtown. In this moment, with that 15, you realize that what you'd been forgetting is that you were supposed to be there this morning at the Tipsy scale for an event they had paid you to show up for.
Oh, no.
Your tiefling horns that have created these double moon-like frames, a lot of the townsfolk have discovered that it lines up perfectly with the Breckoning event that is happening this evening. All this is coming back to you. You remember that they paid you 20 gold to be there this morning. You were supposed to be there probably about 8 hours ago, and that is why Gon-Kui is standing in front of you. That being said, how do you respond in this moment?
I think they just kind of give her a pat on the arm, kind of stand up and just, I'm so sorry. I'm just on my way. I'm really good with the time management thing. I just kind of got a little caught up in stuff.
Give me a deception check.
That is a 13.
You see a chuckle, like a hearty laugh come from Gon-Kui. She's very intimidating to people who cause problems in the bar, but she knows that Yarrow is well-intentioned but scatterbrained at times. She extends her elbow as if like to say, shall we get going? Before Yarrow even can react, starts walking away. Is there anything that you would like to pick up from your tower, from inside before you leave?
I think definitely he's gonna hold on to that paper and probably grab the drawstring bag that he had tripped over, but still keeping the paper probably close to him, either in a pocket or something, and then quickly kind of follow and try to shut down or lock up whatever he's gotta do with all that.
As we finish this scene, I'm gonna have, this is a homebrew roll for those that are curious. I'm gonna have you roll a d20 for me.
Okay.
And this is going to provide a little context to your relationship level with Going Queen.
Oh, I was gonna say that was an 11. If it's just a straight D20,
An 11?
yeah.
Okay, so I will say going into what you are about to head into, you are going to start off with a C+ relationship with Going Queen. For those of you at home, this is a mechanic that I use not to say whether or not someone likes you. It's not that you have to get an A+ for people to like you, but it has in-game components for, later on. NPC recruitment, persuasion, that sort of thing. Yarrow, for now, that is all that we have for you. And we are going to take a bit of a spicy turn to one poison shop. Lady M, if you could describe, not starting with your character, starting with the outward appearance or presentation and, a little bit of an introduction to your shop.
I would love to. So, the apothecary shop that is kind of the main supplier of potions and healing and all of the varying things that may come with a title like apothecary that Lady M runs is called the Lady's Hand. It's a pretty simple 2-story building. It's got some really nice brickwork that's been painted white on the outside. There are really lovely, vibrant flowers in the 2 windows in the front, and the door is a large birch arched doorway. The second story has no windows, and it is just topped with like a moss roof. That also has some lovely like ivy and things falling off and over it. It looks like an old building, but well loved and really well taken care of as well. If you were to go inside the Lady's Hand, the space is super warm. There are candles and candelabras and on thousands of potions in this space of all different kinds. They're trying to organize by section, but I mean, there's so many different kinds that you really have to ask somebody to know what is where. Very similar. There's like creeping ivy over some dark oak shelves. There's incense burning in the 2 windows, and there is a counter made of dark oak as well, with a door on the far, if you're looking at the counter, on the left side that is shut, and a door on the right side, wisteria kind of falling over the doorway as a kind of curtain. There is in this cabinet, or the counter, Lady M is standing behind it, just kind of, I don't know if there's a customer there or whatever scene is set, but yeah.
Lady M, the Lady's Hand, is notorious, but also, how should we say, covert. Some people know what you do here. Some people think what you do here. And some people just think it's a cool vibe. That being said, at this moment, Lady M, you have 4 people that not all together, but in staggering, as any retail worker will know, it's like, it doesn't feel like they're a group, but it's as if like, oh, I have a moment to breathe. And then these 4 people come in like all at once. Lady M, do you go to church?
No.
Could you roll a religion check for me with disadvantage?
I mean, yes, I go to church regularly. Religion. Oh boy. It's not great. That's a 4.
4. Okay. The 4 people who come in, one of them sticks to the back. At this moment, you know that you probably don't have to worry about them. 2 of them actually do look like they came in together. Very troublesome. A lot of people who come here are looking for trouble, but these 2 specifically look like they are here to case the place. You see that they're walking around looking at the roof, looking at like the doors, the windows. One of the more wiry individuals is a maybe half elf, you can't really tell, mostly human features, kind of sharp, very skinny, probably about like 5 feet tall. He very much gives like mean goon vibes. As this little guy is going around, his much bigger, very soft features, but very mean eyes friend is walking with him. You've seen this before. you know that this little guy is going to steal something while the bigger guy is trying to soft talk you. Lady
Yep.
M has seen this a million times. And you might be asking, why'd you have me roll a religion check? What does that prove? What am I looking for? Standing in front of you is a very beautiful is subjective. This aged human woman stands in front of you, 6'4", maybe, very tired eyes, but you can tell that the years of wear on her face hold power and a sorrow that can only be accompanied by like deep, like existential and trauma dealt with, like having the world on their back. A very strong outward appearance, but Lady M, you read people pretty well. This person in front of you is responsible, but very sad in this moment. And they are here to do business, but you don't know who they are. You think you should, because this isn't someone forgets. But yeah, she walks up and she asks if there's any interesting material today.
I'm going to turn to D, my assistant, and I'm going to just give a look to these two hooligans who are, D knows this deal too, right? Like we've kind of, she knows what's up and knows how to kind of navigate that. So I'll kind of flock those to her and trust that she can take care of it. And I'll turn to the woman in front of me. I have a few that I just made fresh in the back.
Up to this moment, her arms have been clasped behind her. There is an air of, I don't want to touch anything here. I'm above all of this. She drops the act for a second. And you see that on the corners of her mouth is what you would try to wash away or cover in makeup. It's been a problem for so long, and with your ability to clock the health of people, this woman, although powerful, is dying. And she has a bit of dried blood on the corners of her mouth. You get the idea that she's not here for poison necessarily, but something that would help.
I'll put a hand on the counter and kind of motion to the doorway that's covered in the wisteria curtain. I can show you if you would like.
As you extend your hand, the woman walks to the back. If you could explain D for the rest of the party, just to give a little bit of an idea of what's going on in this moment.
Okay, I can fuss with character description later if that's okay, and just kind of explain, like, D is a shop assistant that I've had for, I think almost 5 or 6 years now. She's sharp as a whip. She is my right hand. She's my go-to person, and the person who will eventually inherit the lady's hand when the time comes. If you're not going to ask me something, these your go-to.
The reason I had you describe D a little bit is as you gave them the clock, right? You saw like, okay, yeah, no, check on them. D is bumped out of the way by a very overeager older gentleman who caught what you were saying, but is too green, too fresh to deal with the level of what's happening right now. So before you could even finish the conversation that you're having with this elderly woman, Artie is being held up by his shirt. He's an older man, but the bigger guy is holding him up against the wall, and the little guy has already bolted for the door.
I'm going to, underneath the counter, hit the lock that I have on the door of the lady's hand.
Good move. As this happens, the little guy hits the door. If you've ever tried to open a door as you're walking through it and have it not move, that's what happens. It full on, just boom, the guy's on his butt. The cloaked stranger in the back is just kind of watching as everything goes on. The big guy is holding onto Artie, who's your older helper, who is less experienced. But yeah, he's trying his best. There's a moment of just still panic Everyone stops moving. The woman looks and sees what she actually came for, takes it off, puts a pile of gold that you notice is actually a little more than you would normally charge for it, and starts to make her way for the door, steps over the little guy with an open disgust on her face, like she was not here for any of this. At this point, Dee hits the button to open the door. The woman leaves. The stranger in the corner grabs the little guy by the collar of his cloak, brings him up to the bar, to the counter. And at this point, Artie is disheveled and blubbering and crying, just very, snot and tears, just like, I'm so sorry, Lady M.
I know. Hey. I'm gonna grab him by his cheeks, give him a little squeeze, and say, "Go to the back with Dee. She'll take care of you, okay?" You're doing fantastic. I know. Take care of him, Dee.
Dee brings him to the back. At this point, the hooded stranger, you look back up, and the big guy has just been hit over the back of the head. And the hooded stranger steps forward, and you recognize a half-elf that you have done business with before. Blue eyes, shiny blue breastplate, sword that was being pulled out, being put back in. He's like, Lady M, pleasure to see you.
Cal, I could have taken care of that myself.
I know, but your hands, they're so clean. I don't want to deal with them. I want to clean up any mess that you need.
Too kind. How can I help you, Cal?
As you do this, Cal is tying up. But this is almost customary. There's no second thought. Your entire conversation is priority A, but everything in the background is Cal tying up these two guys, and you get the idea that he's going to go deal with it in whatever means that Cal does. Do you not know who that was?
I was going to ask them, and then you knocked them unconscious.
No, not these idiots. And he kicks them. Your
the
last
woman?
Customer.
I did not. No, I should have, but I didn't.
As you are thinking, Cal goes over and he just opens the window, and you see the cathedral in the background, and a moment of recognition comes up to where this is the lead bishop of the church, and anyone else wouldn't recognize this woman. And the reason that you didn't was probably because you are not of the world of a lot of people that come in here, but also you don't go to church. Your faith, what's waiting, all that stuff. These two guys are insignificant. This happens twice a week.
Yeah.
And you could have taken care of it. I'm sure you have defenses. But as this happens, Cal looks at you for the first time in probably about 40 years with a sense of concern.
What are you worried about?
Give me an insight check.
Oh, God. Cal. Really, girl? Really? Really, Cal? Come on now. Don't be crazy. Oh, well, it's going to be really good because I rolled a 2 on the dice, so it's going to be really awesome. 3.
A 3. Cal takes your hand, and without saying anything, this is weird. He doesn't usually do this. He pulls, and you think he's going to kiss it, but as he does this, a snake comes out from his cloak and wraps itself around your arm. This is a pristine white water moccasin with striking blue eyes and a tiny diamond on its forehead. And Cal drops the act for a second, puts his left hand over yours, holds it down, and before he turns to leave, they're going to need you. And I know that you don't leave this place too much. Tonight is going to be a lot. And then he turns and walks up.
I locked the door. Cal, you cannot walk in here without prophecies. Give me a snake and leave.
Cal turns around and looks down at the two men that are coming back to consciousness. And he looks back to your two assistants in the back. You can see kind of maybe through like an opening or, a corner that D is, fixing Artie up. And you feel a knock on your mind that contrasts Cal's cold disposition at this moment. And he would like to speak with you in a different way.
I let him in.
At this moment, if you were to watch the shop, if you were walking by, you would see a half-elf on one end and Lady M on the other, just staring at each other. But in a telepathic leap between these two characters, Cal and Lady M are sitting, drinking some sort of tea or drink, but it is more of a mind palace, if you will. It is just a meeting place. And Cal, not physically, but in this telepathic sense, like takes off his breastplate and his cloak, and you see this mask drop, and he puts his head in his hands. He asks you if you heard about the noon time arrival.
Did I hear about it? I did not hear about it. No, I have no idea.
You did not hear about it.
No, I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
In world for everyone, Breckoning is the event that the new island or the new group comes to daow'vern. Tonight is the next Breckoning event. Something that is crucial and important to this, however, is every noon before the midnight of Breckoning, the beach usually has a visitor. Sometimes it's a ship, sometimes it's someone who, let's say if it was a Triton species, like sometimes it's someone who walks out of the surf, sometimes it's someone who falls from the sky, but it always gives you kind of an idea of who will be coming in the next 8 to 12 hours. As you are talking to Cal, the body of a very strong but extremely ravaged by different forms of magical energy washed up onto the beach. This man was unconscious, but you can also see that this man was strong. Like he should not have, unless he went up against something that he couldn't take, this man should be okay, but he's not. So Cal shows you in a series of scenes in his head that they nursed this guy. They actually sent him to Dianthus, and he's about to be looked at. And Lady M, in about 50 years, you have sold a lot of potions. You've done a lot of business in daow'vern, but you haven't been able to see and access magic like this since you got here. And with this, you understand with Cal's stoic in nature most of the time, but in this moment he's scared, but you feel a fire in your chest of excitement. Because even though you may not have been all wielding and magic needed before, like it wasn't something that you had to have, it is something you've grown to miss a little bit, and you know what Cal is saying in this moment. At that moment, he breaks the connection, and he is at the door. He's like, "Are you going to let me out?"
Say please.
And Cal kind of like turns away for a second. For a bard, he's not great at hiding his emotions, and you see that his like cheeks are really red. And he turns back at you, and he's like, "Please, my dear."
See you later, Cal. And I'll unlock it.
He opens the door and he starts walking.
Do I still have the snake?
You do. You do have the snake.
I'm going to turn around and put the snake in like an empty mason jar on the other side and just be like, don't move.
As you do that, a single piece of the scale on the snake's forehead falls into your hand, and you realize that it is a chip of diamond. And as it falls, you see another piece growing in that same place. So the snake looks at you with a grin. Like if snakes can smile, and they
I
get
am
accustomed to their
busy
charm.
and we can deal with you later. Just keep
Yes.
it for now. I'll be right back.
That being said, we do get to Maldeo, which is the church, which is to Lady M and Cal's awareness where Dianthus is currently residing. We come to the cavern of Dianthus. If you would explain what that looks like a little bit for
Happily
us.
so. A mausoleum, basically. It is very minimal. No personal items are really here, as far as anyone can tell. He is no longer wearing the armor that was given to him 100 years ago. He stored that away somewhere only he knows, down here. But everything else, it is very clean, very organized. Everything has a place. There are beds, or cots, I should say, are set up for the dying. And then there are the closest that one would get to those like morgue pull-out cots for the dead. This is where he prepares bodies, takes care of bodies, and gives comfort to those who are about to become bodies. So it's very clean as well, very sterile down here, and very empty. Normally it is only him. It is not today, but that's all right.
Today, Dianthus, there is you.
Correct.
There is a sickened tiefling that is very familiar to you and to some others. It's just the two of you at this moment. Today is an okay day for them. They are asleep. They're resting. Doesn't seem too bad. You think that you might have been lucky because usually the day leading up to Breckoning, you deal with a lot of poisonings or alcohol issues or things of that nature. At this point, you see the patient behind you start to stir a little bit, and the hair framing their face turns white. And we're gonna take a break. Everyone, we're gonna go to the bathroom. We're gonna get water. We're going to grab a snack if anyone needs that, and then we will finish up the second half.
Oh, hey, long time no see. It's Icarus again. Today we just had a couple shoutouts we wanted to give. The first one being for the person responsible for our theme song, which played at the beginning of the episode and which is playing right now. Emily McNally is phenomenal. She did an incredible job bringing to life a song that really encapsulates the vibes of our campaign. So if you are in need of a custom theme song from anything between your D&D campaign or a video game, please consider checking her out. She's an angel to work with. We worked through Fiverr with her, which you can find her there at Emily McNally 5. That is Emily McNally, the number 5. We also wanted to shout out Epidemic Sound, which is a subscription service that I use personally in my day-to-day job, work life, and for this campaign. All sound effects and musical chords that are not the theme song came from Epidemic Sound. Now, we are not sponsored by them. I simply want to give a shout out and give credit where it was due. There's a ton of music and sound effects available on that site for editors like me, so the atmosphere of these scenes would be a lot more boring without all of those additional little add-ins. Alright, that was it. Let's get back to it.
And as we come back here, we are going to shift to Yarrow and Nortia, Gonqui and Yarrow, as the two of you are walking back to the Tipsy Scale, which is the bar, tavern, the inn, kind of the hub of the lower middle class of D'aowVern. It is a mall, it is a activity center, it is a bar, it is a dance hall, a theater, it is so many things. Because a lot of the way that people come to this island is every year the Breckoning event brings in new cultures, brings in species of people, but also just so many different animals and systems of governing and religion, that sort of thing. But one thing that pretty much every fantastical and scientific and empirical group of people have in common is the need of entertainment and the drive to drink. Yarrow, as you are being brought to the event, as it has been the case for the past couple of years, you are kind of, despite and almost to challenge your reserved nature, you are put on center stage every year for this event because of your natural born gift to display the celestial point in a way that is very chef's kiss. So you don't necessarily want to be here, but for your studies and for just about everything else, you're stuck, so to speak. We come to the tavern, and from a distance, it looks almost like the Globe Theater. It's massive, and it has different forms of architecture. It almost looks like a sleeping dragon or Tarrasque or big figure that is in on itself. But as you open these large, probably about 15-foot tall doors, you open up to this rush of people. There are all sorts of bars and vendors and all sorts of things. As you look along the walls, there are games being played, challenges of, people to certain bets, and, pretty much every walk of life. Any fantastical group of people is here. You see goblins and orcs and elves and humans and changelings, just all in a not quite harmonious, because there is clinking of glasses and people running into each other, and it is kind of a rough and tumble. But anyone who is anyone is going to be here for the big event, which is a few hours from now. That being said, Nortia, you've probably spent your day here. What do you think you have been doing up to this point?
Nortia would have been observing the events and everything that's going on, fiercely as always, writing in her notebook and taking little moments where she could to participate and experience this magical event.
Probably around 12:30, 1 o'clock, a little bit earlier in the day, you probably would have picked up as the kind of the reporter of D'aowVern, for lack of a better term, an energy swell that is typical with the noontime event, but everyone is talking, and with your experience, yes, sometimes being in the place where everyone is gossiping is important, but sometimes you can catch something on the edge. You can see something that would not draw everyone's eye. And so as everyone is talking about the man who ran up on the beach, you see a figure, very messed up arms. He's wearing a helmet that is specifically not of this region. A lot of things aren't of this region, but you, in all the things that you know, you've never seen this specific frame of helmet. This guy is massive, and he's trying to hide himself, but he's, weaving into the crowd, but you can tell that he is wet. He's trying to dry himself, maybe with towels or by, running through the city or something. And you also notice that his boots have a red clay that is not native to this specific beach, this part of the city.
Nortia would start to gather her things and start to rush towards him. Excuse me, sir. Can I help you?
There's a moment, you see the slits in his helmet. He, very much, 1,000-yard stare, just looks up at you, and not in a hasty sense, not in a reckless manner, but in a, oh shoot, I gotta get out of here. He starts bolting for the stairs, probably to lead up to the rooms and stuff, just to try to get out of your view.
Nortia's following that big boy.
If you could roll for me, give me an acrobatics.
Ooh, okay, cool. Oh, 19 plus 1, dirty 20.
Okay. So on my stream, I have Nortia's little picture up. and you have these kind of like riding boots. It looks like. And so I like to imagine in this moment, there's that, JK Rowling aside, the Rita Skeeter type mentality of like, oh, I'm being real sweet and, kind, but my eyes are very intense. That kind of drops, and you pin your skirt up as to not trip. And you are hiking with a sense of duty, but also experience that you are nimbly getting through the crowd of people who are all excited about the event that are happening. Ironically, you get the sense that the thing that they are talking about is the thing that you are pursuing. Like you have a knowledge of like events to be like, if you guys would just pay attention, you could see the cool thing that I'm about to show everybody. This guy, he's like bumping people, he apologizes. There's a curt, it's like respect, but also concern. This guy's like, oh, like, got to get out of here, bumbling towards the stairs. And I will say with a 19 dirty 20, he said, you have a room in the Tipsy scale, and you've been staying there for a couple nights now. You actually feign losing him for a couple moments as to direct him to your room. And I will say, because of flavor mostly, your room's at the end of the hall. He gets there, he like turns around in a moment like, oh crap. And Nortia, you push him through your door into your room. You close it behind you, and it is just the two of you in your room. Now it is, at this point, we'll say probably about 3:00.
Nortia leans against the doorway and takes out her notebook and her pen, and she says, it's quite easier if you just let me talk to you first. The running really puts a dent in it, At
this moment, you see he pulls out a mug that he probably nabbed from downstairs. He downs a thing of ale. As he does so, the cloak that he was wearing, your reporter-like focus, shows that this is not his cloak. And as his arms come up, the collar rips and the cloak falls off his shoulders to reveal he's wearing two sets of armor on his shoulders. He has the helmet, which at this point he has taken off to douse his thirst. But this man looks almost Greek-esque. Like, there are a lot of fit people in D'aowVern, but this guy looks like the Goliath to most Davids. And some would see this action of downing this drink as one of consumption, one of lowering their guard, but he seems to be measuring you up in this moment to figure out what you're trying to do. There's almost an animalistic sense of survival in the way that he's standing, even though you were able to corner him into this place to talk and to figure out who he is or what he's doing. He is ready to run if necessary.
The pen won't hurt you, love.
At this moment, he kind of sits down on the bed. It kind of bends under his weight because of just like how big this guy is. It would be funny and cartoonish if it wasn't like a little bit scary, just because like you've dealt with, people who don't want to talk, but you know this is a story, and so Nortia is very like persistent. Not from here. You see he's twirling this dagger in his hand, and the blade, you can tell, has kind of a hollow center to it, and he's looking at it as if it's broken or it's missing something, and he looks at you. Correct me if I'm wrong, but your eyes are two different colors, correct?
Yes, she has had a chromia. One is gold and one is like an icy blue.
As this bigger man looks into your eyes, sees that he flips the dagger in his hand and he hands it to you. He sits there with his arms crossed as if to test you in that moment. He's not really saying much of anything. A lot of grunts and very impatient but curious.
Nortia takes the dagger from his hand as he hands it, and she kind of flips it between her fingers and then pushes it into the little loop that keeps her satchel attached to her thigh, and brings her quill back up. And she's just tapping it on her head. Do you by chance know how you arrived?
Give me a persuasion check.
Persuasion. 12.
He gives you a look, and you didn't do what he thought you were going to do with the dagger. And that you can tell. You're like, okay, this was some sort of test. I didn't fail necessarily, because you can see that he's opening up to you, but you didn't do what he had expected. So he starts to explain his situation. He's like, my name is Gunnar. I sought out adventure, looking for ways to best those who were given gifts that I wasn't. You are Kalishtar, correct?
Nortia, her eyes kind of widen. Your guess is as good as mine.
At this point, how, I guess, revealing are you in this moment?
Her face, while her eyes do get wider, she does try to keep herself a little bit composed.
At this, Gunnar chuckles a little bit, very hearty, and with a crispness that would make you think that he hasn't laughed in a long time, almost like it's uncomfortable. He gets up and starts to, the frame of the bed had started to bend a little bit. He starts straightening it up, starts making the bed with a precision that gives you an idea that he's probably ex-military of some sort of infantry, cavalry, that sort of deal. And his movements, where before they were defensive, now are deliberate. And he goes to the other side of the room, whereas you initially had like the main bed, and that's where you'd been staying. He feels along the wall, and he pulls down a pull-out bed. And you tell that he's been in this kind of situation before. Maybe not necessarily being interviewed like this, but he's familiar with like the layout of this type of room. He looks to you and he's like, look, I wish I could tell you who I am, where I came from, or what's going on. But I am exhausted. I've been at sea and running from your townsfolk, I presume, all day. Wake me up at dinner. I will explain what I can. And without like deliberate like action, he just passes out. Like, this guy's exhausted. He's been holding himself all day, and he falls in a moment of innocence and almost like childlike, just like falls asleep on the bed.
Nortia watches as he passes out and kind of gives a gentle smile, and then she grabs the dagger that he had handed her and starts to inspect it. The middle part specifically, as it seemed as if something was missing.
Do me a favor and give me an Arcana check with disadvantage. Because what's happening in this moment is you are completely unfamiliar with what is expected and what's going on, and you don't even really know what you're looking for as arcane in nature, but that will give a little bit based off of your roll.
14.
14. Something in the back of your mind, there's a wince, as if an ice pick is burrowing into your eye. It starts to glow a little bit, and you recognize this kind of weapon from the dream that you've been having. Unlike anything you've seen here in D'aowVern, this weapon has a arcane core to it, and anyone with any sort of magical ability would know that by activating it and starting an attunement process to this kind of item, it would glow. On a 14, you're not quite sure how all that works. You've never been able to access your magic like that. This person probably has some sort of connection to the dream that you had this morning. And you should probably keep this a secret. And when that happens, you hear a knock at the door.
No.
Housekeeping.
I'm a little bit busy in here. If you don't mind coming back later, And Nortia runs and like rips. She rips her shirt off to like cover it with a towel, and then like peek through and be like, "Oh, you can come back later. I'm so sorry." And then she closes it.
Gotcha. You get the look of disdain from this gnomely older woman who's been trying to do the housekeeping for your room for probably the last 3 or 4 days, and she goes off all like mad, whatever, down the hall. You turn back into the room. You have the, how should we say, the drape over you, however that is, and you realize that you are either hungry or thirsty, or you need air or something, because this guy, you've seen someone passed out before. Like, you're not waking this guy up. Even him like laying down on his side, his shoulders almost reach yours from like the bed. Like, this guy's like big. You're not going to wake him up. You might want to find something a little more suitable. But yeah, so you should probably, however you want to take this next step, either get something to drink or eat, or go outside or something. What do you think?
So Nortia would obviously put her shirt back on, and then she she would grab the blanket from her bed and kind of lay it over this man, which I assume doesn't completely cover him, but it does him a little bit of justice. She would head downstairs to get some air, to go outside and get some air.
As you open the door, a very nervous Yarrow bumped into you, because at this point of the day, your days are matching up with Gonkui right next to them. And as this bump happens, Gonkui turns to you, Yarrow, puts a bag a little bit smaller than the palm of your hand, like a very small little coin purse looking thing, and says, "If you don't come through tonight, I'll be back for this." And they go into the bar, and it's just the two of you. I will ask at this point, have the two of you met before?
We said they might have met like once before.
Okay.
Hello?
Sorry, I bumped into you. Hi.
No, it's fine. Yarrow, correct?
Yes, I forgot your name.
Nortia Thornwood.
Nortia, hi.
So, I actually, and she is going to very swiftly close the door behind her to make sure that Yarrow does not see the large sleeping man that lays inside. And she kind of like hooks her arm into Yarrow's to like lead them away. I actually, you do a lot with stars and like the moon and stuff, right?
Yeah, good amount.
Have you ever seen or maybe heard of a dragon made of stars?
Yarrow, that's an interesting question. Yarrow, give me a nature check with advantage.
That was an 8 and then a dirty 20.
Ooh, dirty 20. A dragon made of stars would sound weird to anyone who is overhearing it, but Yarrow, in the extensive night maps that you've been poring over to try to figure out things with your brother and things of how D'aowVern came to be and stuff like that, the dragon of stars is the term that someone in the last 100 years to a map that you can't date exactly is pretty much the outline of how they made the map. It is the known celestial bodies seem to form a star or a dragon of stars, and so it does bring up something of but Yarrow, your experience and your research is more analytically based, more observational, so you probably have a little bit of reservation to this, not because you don't want to help, but it seems more of like a folk tale, kind of like, this is like witchcraft or astrology or that sort of thing.
So I've heard of it though, it's just not like a...
Yeah, you've heard of it, and it would probably be strange that someone's asking you about it.
Yeah, I think they're kind of thinking for a moment. It's just like confusion washes over his face, just like, Why do you ask? I mean, I've kind of heard of that, but it's not a real thing.
Oh,
Like
just a silly little rumor I heard. Do you think that maybe you could tell me the story about it sometime? Not right now, but
Sure, not a problem. I mean, it's kind of a fun story from what I know.
As you say this, Yarrow, a burly tiefling man with a very large beard, very, very black beard-esque, hooks you by the arm. You've never met this man before. Hooks both of you by the arms and was like, I love stories. And he starts walking. And Nortia, you would recognize this as Brachius. He is one of the bar owners. He's one of those guys, he gives you like small town, like always at the bar type feels, and he's just trying to get people into the party. He's gonna pull y'all into the bar, and as you're trying to deliberate and get away from this guy, he's gonna start getting you drinks, and the festivities of the night have started. That being said, we are going to transfer for a moment back. Dianthus, your patient, reaches out and grabs your hand.
I will slowly turn to look back at him.
He has a piece of parchment. Unbeknownst to y'all, he's sat up a little bit and had the energy to write this down. Folded it, and he gives it to you, and he says, "Please give this to my brother."
Fine. Do not die until I come back.
As this happens, the white hair that you saw framing his face earlier actually turns a bright purple, and his face gets years younger. Part of the sickness is the body of this individual fluctuates with some sort of chronomactic ability, and you see this elderly man turn into probably a 6-year-old boy, and he falls asleep sitting up on the bed.
I will very carefully lay him back down so that he's not just like toppling over.
Dianthus, before you leave, do you think that you would change outfits? Or would you stay in the robes?
Probably stay in the robes, and obviously he's going to keep that visor on. He's had no reason, probably in 100 years, to put that armor on. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And Dianthus, Yarrow's brother doesn't wake up a lot, so usually when there's like these kinds of requests, it's pretty serious.
Right.
Probably find your way back to where you think and know that Yarrow would be. For different reasons, you all go back to the Tipsy scale. We have Yarrow and Nortia at a table being berated a little bit by the elder tiefling. You could tell that at one point he was like strong and probably an adventurer of some kind, but he's very much a little bit reserved and retired at this point. So the three of you are at a table. He motions for a couple of his assistants and other like bar backs, that sort of thing, just to kind of hang out with y'all for a little bit. And Dianthus, Lady Anne, walk into the tavern. What do you do?
I'm immediately beelining for Yarrow.
I'm going to go up to the bar and see if I can't get a quick gin and tonic.
So I'll say, for the sake of dividing that up, Dianthus, you were kind of beelining, but you really haven't been out and about probably in a while.
I don't leave unless I need to. I'm normally on church grounds or working on people.
Right. So there's a little bit of that. You're not really paying attention to a lot of the social norms of how to like walk in this space. And so it's distracting to the natural flow of the tavern and stuff. So there's a bit of bumping around, a little bit of people giving you weird looks. You hear a whisper of some of the younger patrons, hushed undertones, looking at you, trying to figure out who the Harbinger. The Harbinger is a local folk tale of a person who goes around at night collecting bad children and that sort of thing. And Dianthus is the only person to receive this sort of treatment. So there's a group of people and they're all drinking and stuff. And it's very much if you've ever seen a guy like that's out just kind of like openly talking about someone with like their arm on like the chair or something, and you come up right behind him. It's like, oh. And there's definitely a moment of everyone starts laughing, and it cuts the mood a little bit, because up to this point you have been surrounded by like a coldness of everyone trying to figure it out, but also just like Dianthus never comes out. So that does make laughter comes back. A lot of the natural events get going. Y'all head to Yarrow's table. Lady M, you get a drink at the bar,
and then I'll join them.
One thing before that, if you could give me a perception check.
I mean, I don't get a drink at the bar. I go straight to the table. Not terrible, 15.
A warden is at the bar and tries to take your drink, tries to spike your drink, tries to knock it over. You're not quite sure what they're trying to do in that moment, but they reach for your drink and you catch it.
I'm going to push it into their hand. And say, enjoy my leftovers, I was finished. And I'm going to get up and walk over to Yarrow's table.
As this happens, Kui, behind the bar, sees what just happened, takes out a meat cleave that they use for the dinner stuff, and puts the blade into the sleeve of this man. So he's still holding your drink. His arm is pinned down, but Kui reaches behind the bar, hands you the bottle that you ordered, and was like, enjoy your night. And with one hand starts dragging this guy, back to the back, I guess. We'll never know. Y'all all come to the table, and Yarrow, Nortia, you are seeing this group. Dianthus is never out, so this is very surprising. Everyone is at the table for the first time today.
Well,
I mean, Yarrow's probably talking with Nortia and just, chit-chatting, and then immediately as soon as he sees you guys and Dianthus, the face just like falls like oh no, what's wrong?
I don't think that Dianthus knows the young lady at Yarrow's table. I don't think they've ever met before. Yeah.
No.
So I think he kind of slows his pace when he notices that. But honestly, man, we got bigger fish to fry than you being on a date right now. So he's just gonna keep going. And put a hand probably on the back of the seat that Yarrow is sitting on to lean down. Not a full whisper, but does lower his voice. I have something from EMRYS for you. It is urgent.
I'm not dead, at least.
No.
What do you have?
I will not like I'm slipping you something that no one else should see, but still discreet in manner. Try to hand you the note.
Yeah, we'll take it. Looks at you for a moment and then opens the note.
Yarrow, what languages would you know?
Common, Draconic, Elvish, and Infernal.
Which language do you think that you and your brother would use for kind of codes and stuff?
Probably Infernal?
Okay. As you open the note, it is coded, and in your head, you don't need a cipher to translate it because you've been using this language with your brother. However, it's as if the person writing this, it's as if your brother forgot. A lot of the letters are in wrong places. It's not coherent, really. It's if you've ever picked up the note of like a 5-year-old who's just learning how to write for the first time, like that's kind of what it looks like. You don't get anything out of this, except on the corner there is a little drawing of the 2 moons, Obus and Valia, and they are on fire.
Oh, great, but I can't make out any like the words.
The words, you can make it out, but it's not discernible. Like, it's as if someone, whoever was writing this, it is you know that it's your brother, but like it's as if this person didn't know what they were writing, or as they were writing it, were losing the code as it came out. So really, all that you can really glean from it is the symbol, and you get a little bit of a pit in your stomach. You're very much an empirical, scientific, for lack of a better word, person, but you do get a sense of divine dread, just a little bit. As that is happening, Nortia, if you could give me perception checks.
That's a nat 1, baby.
A probably 4-year-old tiefling run and bump into Nortia. Dianthus, you see that Yarrow's brother somehow got to the tavern, and you see over the shoulder Cal at the door is completely flushed, and as if he had sprinted to try to catch up to this little child all the way here to the tavern. So Yarrow, this feeling of like, oh my god, this is so bad. What the heck? You recognize your brother, and because of the way that this disease works, you recognize that it's not strange that they're younger than you've seen them, since actually you probably wouldn't have even seen them at this age while you were a child, because they're older than you, I believe. It is weird that they're out because they haven't been on their feet in months, years, maybe. So very strange. Dianthus, how do you respond to your only patient getting out?
I'm gonna try and grab him. I don't know how kids work. I'm just gonna try and snatch him up however I can.
Give me an opposed athletics check.
Man. Whew, 18.
Oh, okay. So there's a little bit of like elusive. If you've ever tried to get a child who has been inside for a week to stay in still, it's pretty difficult. However, Dianthus, you've dealt with unruly patients before, and you get EMRYS by the arm, not in a forceful way, because you're also aware that at this point it is a child, but you catch it and you sit it. For a moment, Gonkui clocks what's going on, the bartender clocks what's going on and is like, weird, like, why is there a child here? But there's a moment of, fine, and they go to the back, pull out a booster seat, and put your brother in the seat and kind of give like a little bit of a, okay, well, I guess we'll deal with this later, and then they go back to the bar because it's starting to pick up.
Cal cannot see my eyes, but I do deliberately turn my whole head his direction. And I just hope that my expression of neutrality gets across how peeved I am that he let this kid out.
As you turn to look at Cal, he's very much in full conversation with Bracchius, who got up and was, trying to get other people to order and stuff. You see Cal is visibly nervous and like kind of looking around as like oh my gosh, I'm a babysitter who lost the kid. What, like, I'm so screwed. And then they make eye contact with you. And there's a moment of like, and like, zoom, and like he darts because there's like a level of like, oh shit, they found it. So he's going to the outer rim of the floor to get to you guys. Not running away from y'all, but very much like, I need to get over there, but this is going to suck.
I would love to start walking to meet him halfway and just put a hand on his chest to stop him from walking. You have 10 seconds to explain. Make it good. 9, 8,
Okay,
7.
so EMRYS, he hasn't been up ever. So I was in the corner. Your armor started glowing, which I thought was weird. So I went to go check that out.
Pause.
I turn around and the kid's gone.
Stop. My armor was what?
Okay, maybe not glowing, but like it's like dark, right? Like black and has like this like trim and stuff on it. But it's like
Cal.
But okay, but like I've never seen it like this. Like it's been so we've known each other a long time, but everything, it was all, and he starts like really stumble over his words because Cal, as a bard, he started the day not knowing of all the shenanigans that was going to go on. He's been drinking, so there's a little bit of like, if you've ever been trying to get a drunk story out of someone and you are painfully too sober to be on that level with them, it's like very much like a Cal focus type thing. Basically, he went to go investigate the armor and your collection that was back there, which he would only really know that it was there because he helped you kind of most people wouldn't know where it was, but he, because y'all have known each other for a long time, helped kind of set that up for you. He turned around, the kid's gone, and you can tell that there's a level of, in his eyes, a bit of, today's really weird. Like, most Breckoning events are strange, but there's a lot of shit going down today. And as this happens, the lights in the establishment start to fade, almost as if, if you've ever been to a theatrical performance, the show is about to start.
I will probably just grab him by the shoulder to start walking us back to the table with everybody else.
As this happens, if you've ever seen like a tray and you have a couple drinks and stuff, there's usually like a water pitcher. Cal grabs the pitcher because he's like, I need a little bit more of, he's like, I'm in trouble there. He's following you sort of thing. He's drinking the water. As we get back to the table, who here thinks, besides Yarrow, who is part of the Breckoning event just by proxy, who here thinks they would have some sort of connection or responsibility with it? Dianthus, okay. Lady M, a little bit, okay. This is kind of strange because it's before everything, but if I could get a performance check from you three, and this is going to be more to explain your role in this.
I got a 19 on the die plus 5 to performance is 20.
I had a 10
bard.
minus 1, so a 9.
I got 14 plus 1, so 15.
Gotcha. Okay, so the event that's about to happen, the Breckoning, Yarrow's character is sent to center stage, and the way that the moons orbit D'aowVern is strange because every year one of the moons eclipses the other because they're two almost on a steady pattern. But only one day a year are both moons equidistant to the planet. And this is part of the reason that Yarrow's gimmick is to show up and to stand in the center stage of the TIPSY scale. So the moment when the moons are in the same moment, there's a ethereal light effect that happens. And it's just kind of cool to like, people just want to see the shadow on the floor. And it just so happens that Yarrow's horns make that effect a little more raunchy, I guess. Dianthus, this year, your role is mostly just to make sure that Yarrow doesn't freak out, which you probably, knowing your character, are not the most. You're not the most suited to be a warm shoulder.
No, furthest thing from it.
But that is your role for tonight. Nortia, on a 15, basically what you're doing is just kind of like note taking, but also like you are the person who writes the editorial about what happens, right? Like everyone wants to know what's new with the event. So you are very close to the stage. And this year, Lady M has a deal with the bar to where you've been working on some like specialty drinks, almost as if like a year in review. And it's very much themed to the non-specific, but just the things that have happened this year. And so there's a bit of your bardic tendency coming out there. As this happens, lights erupt, dancers come out, everything starts to ramp up. People are taking their places. Yarrow, Dianthus is directing you to center stage. Nortia, in a strange turn of events, you're still reporting what's going on, but someone should watch the baby. And Lady M is out doing their thing. Cal, probably a week ago or some sort like that, basically agreed to be your bar back for the evening. So there's a lot of action happening. How do we respond to the uproar that is starting to begin as the Breckoning event starts to take place?
I think Dianthus hates it here. It's loud, it's bright. He doesn't like celebrations, but he has to be here. And ever since Cal mentioned his armor, he wants nothing more than to grab the baby and go back home to look at it proper. Because, I mean, has it done anything in the past like that?
Nope.
Yeah, so even more reason to be like, I want to skip this year's celebrations, but I can't because this guy needs me for some reason. So he's very on edge because of all the noise going on, but also kind of up in his head on the armor. It's weird. It's very weird. So he hasn't really stopped thinking.
Dianthus, you have this air of everyone knows that you don't want to be there. Yarrow, what is your general mindset as the event starts?
So I think he was probably about to try and ask his brother questions like, why are you here? What did that note mean? What the heck? And then realizing he had to go and do all that stuff. There's like the nervousness of what's the note in that picture? Like, what does that mean? Like, what's gonna happen? And then the nervousness of he hates like being in front of like public speaking stuff, not his jam. She's probably very nervous, like rambling on and on, just like, okay, like
as this happens,
trying to
you see your brother fall asleep kind of like in the nook of Nortia's elbow, like has their notebook out, whatever, but you're at this point probably 3-year-old brother, just very like both hands just asleep, which gives you a little bit of comfort, but you are immediately pulled out of that sense of comfort by all of the energy, and you are put center stage. Dianthus close, but not on stage with you behind Lady M. What is your general take on how you approach a performance like this?
I know I'm being paid a lot by the bar for this collaboration, so I will put my best effort into it. I think that I'm giving Cal smack as he's making drinks as often as I can because it's fun. And I think I'm very much like kind of juxtaposed to how she would normally be. She's very like she's like being snippy with customers in like a playful like kind of a way, and she's winking, and she's sliding drinks across the table, and she will have brought a flight of all of the drinks to each one of the respective party members. Yeah, just being very like just like a turned up version of like how Lady M normally would be, but at the end of the night we'll be incredibly exhausted by all this emotional and energy that we're expending right now.
I will say, because you said what, 24?
24.
24. As this
and
happens,
probably just because she's like, she is musical, so probably also maybe like humming a sassy little like jazz moment, and like doing some like scatting as she's kind of like helping people and going around.
Gotcha. This definitely gives me the visual of not quite burlesque, but like the fox coat, just kind of like walking around, not a performance, very Chicago, very much just kind of like, I am the entertainment for no other reason than I am entertaining.
Yes.
And as this is happening, slinging drinks, everything, Cal actually pulls out a little mini guitar, ukulele-esque looking instrument, and is playing along, still kind of in the doghouse because he's like looking at Dianthus, avoiding Dianthus's look, apologetic to Yarrow because this is something that like, oh, I'm sorry, this isn't your thing. The drinks are being done, the music's roaring up. There's a quiet roar that erupts from the people, but also the island itself, because when the Breckoning event happens, it's similar to having a sand castle where you've made it as big and as tall as you think you can make it, and then what's happening is on a planetary level, more material is being pushed into the island. So there's a little bit of like earthquakes and things normally, but right now there's like just general energy from everyone. Yarrow is being put into not quite a contraption, but there is if you've ever seen at a retail store, the bars where the clothes go, like it's just kind of a thing where you can like rest your head on it and have the moonbeams hit the floor, and there's a bunch of mirrors around, so whenever it starts to happen, Valia, the greener moon, actually hits your horns first. So there's a green glow to the bar. Everything's very almost neon-esque. As Obus gets into place, there's a more subtle, almost dampening, but it makes the light clear. It makes it to where you could read the facial expression of everyone in the establishment. It is still dark because there's not central light on, but like the moon beams are making everyone a very crisp and clear and beautiful. In the last few seconds before Breckoning happens, does anyone in the bar do anything?
When Nortia notices finally that this child is asleep on her, she kind of like gently like sets the child down a little bit and is looking around, and Nortia is going to like grab Brachius?
The tiefling,
Yes.
older guy? Yes.
She's going to grab Brachius and just say, "This child, I do not know them, but if you could just stay for 1 second, and I'll go outside."
This happens moments before the event is happening. You open the door. You see Gunnar, the guy that you had talked to earlier, peeking out of the bushes, and he like shrugs and gives you a look of like, crap. And he like goes back into the bar. You're like, almost with like you can respond how you will, but you almost get a sense of like, okay, good boy type deal. As he goes back in, and you see looking up towards the moons in a sense of full hypnosis. And as Obus, the second moon, falls into place, you start to glow. And Lady M, as the words escape your lips, a green smoke begins to prestidigitatively, I can never say that word, prestidigitatively crawl around the bar. Yarrow, you are lifted from the ground by a good 5 feet as the container that was putting you in place falls. You are completely untethered, yet taking on the events of everything that are happening. Dianthus, you see in the middle of a room the sky open up, and normally there is land and there are physical things coming to the island. But this year, you see that everything is happening in a dream-like, death-like, magical sense. And standing in the middle of the room is a 10-foot tall, and this is only visible to Dianthus, woman in full red, holding Yarrow by the throat. And there is energy. And Yarrow, your face starts to age in front of everyone. And the Breckoning has started. And that is where we'll end tonight's session.
God, what the fuck?
For everyone watching or who will see this later, make sure to check out all of the content creators and players that we have. This is going to be so much fun. But yeah, magic has returned to D'aowVern. And yeah, there's a lot that is going to maybe happen. A lot of things are going to be learned and discovered and rediscovered for some of you. Y'all signed up for this.
We did.
We did. We really
Yeah.
We did, yeah.
Dang.
Thank you all for joining us, strangers and friends. Join us next week for more adventures with our party.